Good day, fellow deal makers. Welcome to the Deal Scout. I want to introduce you to one of my newest friends, Mr. Edward. He's in the other side of the country. He's in Southern California. And before we hit record today, we were talking about mission. We were talking about purpose. We were talking about values. And then we were also talking about deals. But I just love conversations that start like that. So I figured we'll hit record and let you, our audience, and our community be a part of this. So with that, Mr. Edward, welcome to the Deal Scout.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, man. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, man. All right. So you are a fellow podcaster. You've got a great thriving podcast. Why don't you start off by telling us what your podcast is and what it's all about?
Well, so my podcast is to equip people how to become citizens of the kingdom of God so that they can take dominion over this earth for the glory of God. That's what it's all about.
Now, this is super cool. Now, you have a thriving business. Why don't you
Yes, sir.
kind of give us an idea of your business? Because you started our conversation with this, and it just like lit me up. It got me on fire because I love purpose-driven people who are doing something for a cause that's greater beyond themselves, right? So, tell us
Yes,
about your
sir.
business.
So what we do is, so I started this business 10 years ago with $60,000 out of my garage. And, God gave me a name, during a 7-day fast. I looked up that name, 1031 Crowdfunding. And for $9.99 through GoDaddy, I bought that name. And out of $60,000 out of my garage in the last 10 years, we did about $3.5 billion in transactions. And we focus on 1031 exchanges that are either tired of dealing with the tenants, the toilets, and the trash, or just run out of time and are looking for institutional quality real estate from our platform. And that's what we do.
Yeah, and we're gonna circle back around to your podcast because I think it's really cool the mission that you're doing over there, and I'd like to know like why you do the business and the podcast. But you came out and you're very open about like I started this in my garage. I'm in my garage right now. We built it into a studio, which is super cool. But you took your money, 60K. You did a 7-day fast, which I wanted you to touch on that. But you poured it into a business. Was there a point in time where that money almost ran out before something happened?
Oh, yes, sir. So I took that $60,000. I took 30,000, and this is from two investors on a handshake, right? So they said, Ed, we're going to trust you. Here, they sent us the money. I took $30,000, put it in my bank account to pay my bills because I was down to zero. I took another $30,000 and I gave it to a securities attorney to make a private placement memorandum to raise $500,000 so that I can trust, so investors can trust me. I put an escrow on it. So I didn't touch any of the money until I was going to reach $200,000. Well, there was a week left to raise another $50,000. And I was screaming at God. I said, God, I don't care. I'm taking $150,000. I got to pay my bills. It is what it is. And the Lord told me, take what you need today. Next week, by this time, you will have the other $50,000. I had a meeting the following Friday. They committed to the $50,000. I had the $200,000 broke escrow, and we were off to the races.
I'll tell you, man, when the month runs out of money, right? And you're
I'm telling you, I can feel the Spirit of God right now, man. I don't know where we're going with this show, but it's crazy.
It's crazy because I've there's been a few times in my life where like I felt like, hey man, I know I'm doing the right thing. I know I'm heading in the right direction. And you look at the bank account and it goes from a few commas to blah 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 or whatever, right? Like, or I didn't have 2 commas, but I had over 100K and I saw it like get down to like the last couple of weeks and I'm like, God, what's going on, man? I'm freaking out. Like I think and I know this show is the Deal Scalp, and we're going to talk about deals and such, but I think that when you have a belief system, it dictates how you do deals, and it dictates
Yes.
how you show up, and you have to mix
Yes.
faith in your business, and it's terrifying. How did you
Yes.
do it? You prayed, you fasted, like walk me through it because I need faith.
So, before I even started the business, right? So I worked for another guy for 14 years. And I learned everything from him, but he went the wrong direction. The company shut down, and I got my last paycheck on February 28th of 2014. My last paycheck. I took all the office furniture, did a kind of garage sale office furniture, made $7,000, put that $7,000 in my pocket, and that's all I had, right? And so the Lord told me, I want you to fast for 7 days. And on the seventh day, the walls are going to fall down. So I went into my closet, just sold water. And on the seventh day, the Lord gave me 1031 crowdfunding, the actual exact name. And so I went downstairs, Googled it, and I came to realize what I've been doing for the last 14 years is now available to do it online. And that's where I went to an investor of mine. He gave me $60,000. And that's when everything just started going. And you know what I've learned throughout all these years? I'm 56 years old. I've been a lover of Jesus for 30 years now. What I've learned in this journey is that my bank account is not my source. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't matter what it feels like. I just trust in my Father, and my Father always comes through. I have journals for the last 30 years of all the pillars and all the atonements that he has done for me. So when I start questioning God, I go back and I see miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle. And that actually causes me to go, you know what, Lord, if you brought me this far, there's no way you're going to let me down. I don't even look at my bank accounts anymore.
Wow. I had another Christian dude who encouraged me to never look at my bank account. Not in the way that I was doing it, right? I have an alert on my phone every time a penny gets moved from the, I get a notification. So I'm like sitting there and it goes beep, 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 especially when my wife and kids are, on a shopping.
Me too. Me too.
Freaks me out. And, but I love this, that my bank account is not my source. Now I'll tell you, man, when I have, a year worth of savings in there, it feels good.
Yes, it does.
It feels good because you could breathe, your bills are covered. Now, I've also been on the flip side of that when I've been bankrupt, been on food stamps, and I'm struggling. I'm trying as hard as I can to make something work, and it didn't work. And I'm freaking out. Like, when you're in that freak out moment, like, you go back to journals. And I think that this is, I was reading through my journal again this morning, but I think it's so important to remember things that have happened in the past and rebuild on that. Kind of walk us through like what your journal looked like prior to you freaking out.
I can remember writing in my journal when, crying, just totally crying. God, we tithe, we give. Why are we going through these things? Why are you allowing these things to happen, Lord? And, I've been married 29 years now with my wife, right? And, we've come to learn, as this journey, you get stronger and stronger and stronger. And, as you grow, I got 51 employees now, payroll is through the roof, everything is just through the roof. It really doesn't matter where you are in business or where your company is. There's always going to be a dependency on God, no matter what. Because if you just want to stay where you are, that's fine. Look at your bank accounts, and you're going to budget, and you're going to move according to what your resources are. But when your resource is unlimited, when your eyes kind of go into, Lord, you're my source, you just do things just knowing God is going to catch you. Because a lot of people want to fly, but they're not willing to jump off the cliff so they can soar. And we have learned to jump off the cliff, and every single time the wind of the Holy Ghost gets my wings and always catches me. Every single time.
Dude, all right. So you're very bold about your faith.
I'm not playing.
All right, but why? Right? So like what kind of, in your brain, because I know people, and I've interviewed 2,000 people probably so far. And like some people, like they're very open, very overt. Some people are like, listen, this is a special ops mission. We're covert with our faith. We believe, but we're not going to put on, but you're very overt about it. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
It's just, when I said, when God gave me this company, I said, Lord, I'm never, ever, ever going to sweep you under the rug, ever, Father. And, the problem with what's going on right now, look, I'm an evangelist for the marketplace. That's what I am. Right. I thought I was going to be evangelist where I was going to walk around and go from tent to tent to tent to tent to tent. But at the end of the day, God has given me this revelation. I'm an evangelist for the marketplace. And so if Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and all these wealthy people can go out there and preach about how to make money and no one judges them, then why can't I preach about money and show the goodness of God? So that's why I'm very bold about it, because at the end of the day, my God owns all the gold and silver and 1,000 cattle on the, and I'm a child of the Most High God. So if I'm the child of the Most High God, I sit at the table and eat as I please. I don't go under the table and beg for bread. So I want everyone to know that my God is good, especially now, because the things of the world show that Satan can prosper you. And most people think that God can't prosper you. Well, I'm here to tell you God can prosper you, and that's why I'm so bold about it.
Man, that's super cool. All right. We're going to keep going into this. This is good. All right. So there's a belief system, the psychology of money, the belief of money in what, money is. And there's something that I heard, like being a Christian dude, people would say the love of money is the root of all evil. And and I've heard it even said that money is the root of all evil. And I want to like put a check in that, because you try to teach people about money and about the kingdom of God and all this. Like, how does that tie in with money? Jesus talked a lot about money, for sure.
Well, let me tell you, there are only two things that are omnipresent. That's God and money. Any place you go into the entire world, there's money. Any place you go, there's God. So if money is omnipresent, then money is a spiritual thing. What makes this world go around is money. And so the lack of money is a curse, because at the end of the day, before the fall of Adam and Eve, we had dominion over the earth and we gave it away. So now we're here to take it back, but it takes money. People are scared of money. Yeah, it's the love of money that's the root of all evil, but money is a tool. Money's influence. When you fly in a private jet or you drive a car, first thing that people say is, "Sir, what do you do for a living?" First thing you got to do, man, is you got to love Jesus with everything you have. After that, it's all downhill. It's a way to actually attract people, because people are attracted to things. They're attracted to things. But if they know Jesus is the source of those things, then they're going to want a little bit of Jesus too.
For sure. They absolutely do pay attention to things. It would be very difficult to drive up in a beat up station wagon and try to talk about, building a business and being successful. And I know people, who are multimillionaires who drive old beat up cars. But I think when it comes to the thing that's going to capture people's attention, convert it to a conversation, will be the things that of interest to them.
Yes, sir.
Now, you've built a thriving company, 51 employees, over 3.5 billion in transactions in 10 years. That's incredible. Kind of talk to us. What the heck is a 1031 exchange for my fellow deal makers out there who have no clue?
Absolutely. So it's a way to actually defer taxes from the sale of an investment property. So 1031 is an IRS code. And so as long as you follow these certain rules, you got a certain 180-day time frame. If you find a piece of real estate, buy a piece of real estate from the one that you sold within 180 days, you can defer the taxes. So we call it swap until you drop. So think of a 1031 exchange as, I like the North Shore of Hawaii, of Oahu. So the waves get like 50, 75, 100 feet high, right? So think of a 1031 exchange as on the surfboard. So the waves represent taxes. Okay. And so as long as you stay on that surfboard, i.e. 1031, and ride that surfboard all the way to the shore, i.e. die, the waves never hit you, right? So you buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. You're staying on that surfboard. That wave can go 50 feet, 75 feet, 100 feet, and never come crashing down on you. As soon as you get off that surfboard, though, based on how big that wave has gotten to you, and it crashes down on you, i.e. taxes, then at that point you pay the taxes. So the way that you do 1031 exchanges, using the term swap until you drop, is you buy, sell, you pass away, and your heirs get everything tax-free. You never pay the taxes.
Man, that's such an interesting approach. But let's throw this scenario. I'm buying, selling, like doing this 1031 exchange, rolling through, and we could, walk through some of the fundamentals of a 1031 exchange. What if I need the money? What if something happens in my life? I need new teeth, or my kid pokes his eyeball or something like that. How does that work?
So again, you don't have to do a full exchange. You can do a partial exchange, right? So if at the end of the day, let's say you sold $1 million property and you need $100,000 in cash to settle anything that you need to do, you can exchange 900,000, but just be prepared to pay the pro rata taxes due on the 100,000 that you took. So you don't necessarily need to do it all, but if you do want to defer 100% of your taxes, you do need to invest and do the exchange with that.
Yeah. High level overview in terms of which properties and what kind of assets can we use within a 1031 exchange, and maybe some of the ones that are not accessible for a 1031 exchange.
Well, all real estate is accessible for a 1031 exchange. They use the term like kind. And most people think that that term means, oh, if I sell a house, I got to buy a house. That's not what it means. Like kind means real estate to real estate. So if I sold land, I could buy an apartment building. If I sold an apartment building, I can buy a piece of land. So all real estate, as long as it's real property, qualifies for an exchange.
Got it. What about primary residence or homes? Like, what kind of strategies have you seen or that you guys conduct when it comes to the home that you live in?
Yeah, so unfortunately, that's going to only be, if you live 2 out of the 5 years in the home, if it's an individual, you get $250,000 exemption, as a couple, $500,000 exemption, but you can't exchange your primary residence.
Yeah. Yeah, Florida has we're in Florida and it has that homestead exemption, which is really great for saving taxes, especially if the home appreciates in value. Like we've seen over the past few years, Florida,
Sure.
and I'm sure in California, prices went through the roof for, single family residents. As you're doing this, you've got a platform, the 1031crowdfunding.com. Like what happens on your website? What happens behind the scene with the 51 employees? Like talk us through the business.
So think about 1031 crowdfunding as a shopping mall, okay? So when you go to the mall, there's a lot of different storefronts, right? You got, Nordstrom's or Tilly's or Vans, right? So 1031 crowdfunding is a shopping mall with a bunch of storefronts: senior housing, student housing, self-storage, industrial, single tenant, triple net, like Amazon, Dollar Generals. So when you come to my mall, right, you can shop any storefront you'd like. So now based on that determines what kind of client comes in, how old they are, what their investment goals are. So as far as the 51 employees are concerned, when you're buying that kind of real estate, you've got to have an accounting team, right? You've got to have an investor relations team. You've got to have analysts, asset managers, acquisition team. I have my own marketing team, and then I got my own sales team. So it's fully integrated to service the clients that we have, which is currently about 1,600 clients today.
Wow. So
Yeah.
now there's a time frame that an asset, like I sell big piece of land or whatever, I sell it, and then
Yep.
I got that money in hand. I've got to do something with that money, right? Walk us through the sunset.
Yeah. So most important for your viewers, if you're selling a piece of real estate and you're doing a 1031 exchange, you cannot allow that money to go into a bank account that you control. That automatically disqualifies the exchange. So you need a third party called a qualified intermediary. So you hire that company. It's going to cost you about $850 to $1,500. You give that information to escrow. When the property settles, escrow's not sending you the money. They're sending you the money to the qualified intermediary. At that time, you're now in a 1031 exchange. You have 45 days to find what you want to try to buy. That's 45 calendar days. Weekends count, holidays count. There are no extensions. So you have 45 days to try to identify what you want to try to buy. And then after the 45 days, you have an additional 135 days to try to close on what you have identified. If you successfully do all that together, you've successfully deferred 100% of your taxes. The hardest part of a 1031 exchange is that 45 days. That is the toughest part, and that's why they come to us.
So they come to you and you have potential properties that people can view that might fit
We
their
have
criteria.
properties that are already purchased. They're already owned. So an investor can own a fraction of a 300-unit apartment building, right? So because it's already purchased, I can satisfy your exchange as quickly as in 5 days and you're done.
And if I don't want to clog any more toilet, like do the
Tenants and toilets and trash, you come to us.
got it. So then when it comes to property management, walk us through that. Cause like, yeah, like we sold a bunch of duplexes a few years back, right? And we were dealing with broken signs and doors and, air filters and crap like that. I don't have to deal with that anymore. But there's a control freak thing in my brain
Yes,
that
sir.
while we're managing it, I know that it's going to be at least okay, right?
Yeah.
Now they're investing in a fractional. Is that a concern that some investors have? Is like, I'm
It
giving you
depends on their
money.
age. Yeah. It's like, so you look pretty young. And so the younger people really have that control issue. But the older people, so our demographic of investors anywhere from 60 to 90 years old. They've already built their wealth. They want to enjoy their lifestyle. They definitely don't want to pay the taxes to the federal government. Their kids may not want to take over their empire, but they don't want to, pay the taxes. So the best thing to do is to come to us, right? You can diversify your entire portfolio. You can buy a little bit of apartments, a little bit of senior housing, student housing, self-storage. You don't have to put all your eggs in one basket. You can diversify geographically. You can go into controlled states if you want to, not trying to get political here, or you can go into free states, but you can choose where you want to go, right? Because everything's nationwide. So those are the actual client profile that fits this model.
Got it. And when it comes with, sometimes with age comes wisdom, sometimes, right? I've seen old fools and I've seen young fools too. I'm trying to be
Yes.
I'm trying to be a wise person, but they learned something about time, that time is precious and time
Yes, sir.
is uncertain, right? I think there comes to
Absolutely.
a point in an investor's life where they go, I've got to release control if I really want this to grow, right?
Yes. Yes.
Um, when you see that happen, what happens to the person's lifestyle or what happens in the person's world? Because you talk about this on your podcast show about investing and scale.
Yeah. So when, it takes a little bit for people to give up control and trust you. And it comes down to trust. Are you really going to do what you say you're going to do? And we've worked very, very hard with our clients to show them that, we're not perfect, but we do have a lot of character and a lot of integrity. And once they get comfortable, they're very happy with the results. So it is a mental thing, right? You do have to give up control, but giving up control comes with quality of life. They are now in the position where they want to enjoy the quality of life and enjoy what they built over time without the headaches.
Yeah. And that's how leverage happens too. You can't really scale something without leverage and focusing on your main thing or whatever your money maker and having people work on other things for you. What was the hardest part? Like, what was your first like strategic hire that you think grew your business to where it is today?
My wife,
Okay, let's hear
my
this.
wife, yes, she is the COO of the company. Okay. I am a horrible manager. I am not good at managing people at all. But she's kind of like the honey that attracts the bees.
Yeah.
She understands personality. She's very kind, empathetic, compassionate, and they love her to death. And when she came on board, we grew by 433%. And that's how we made Inc. magazine.
Wow.
Yes.
What was your concerns before hiring your wife?
How we were going to work together. You know, and can I really spend all day and night with her? Right.
Yeah.
But it worked out very, very well because she is my friend, right? So she has her office on the other side. I have my office here. I do my thing. She does her thing. We rarely even see each other during the day because we're so busy. She drives in on her time. I drive in on my time. By the time we go home, it's like, hi, honey. We haven't seen each other all day. So it completely works.
Yeah, man. Super cool. So in your 1031 business, right, the 1031 crowdfunding, um, you guys have properties that are available for people in a fractional system. Does that mean that you guys have to go out and acquire the properties in advance to have ready for people? So how do you
Yes,
do
sir.
that process?
Great question. So I have three bridge funds. Okay. In the bridge fund, these investors understand that their equity is going to take down deals. Once the deals are taken down, they're secured by that deal. So now here comes an investor coming into that deal that needs to do a 1031 exchange. Their equity that comes in goes back to pay the bridge investors. So I've raised a tremendous amount of money with these bridge investors. My first one paid 9%, second one paid 12%. Now my third one's paying 15%. And so they like the fact that they're acting like the bank to take down deals for exchangers that need to defer taxes.
Yeah. Now, when you were doing your fast, let's go back to, because you were trying to figure out what the heck to do. You had a little bit of money in the pocket because you had a garage sale for the furniture, and you're going, what am I supposed to do? Why did you fast rather than just go start knocking on doors and trying to do real estate transactions or freaking out or whatever?
Great question. That's absolutely great question. I mean, at the time, when you're in your place of desperation is the place where God speaks the loudest, right? Because everything is quiet down and you're so dependent on the Lord. And the Lord, look, I was out of a job for a very long time. And the Lord said to me, at that time, internet was, just starting. And I would look, I could get hired easily. I raised a lot of money. I've been raising equity all my life, no problem. And the Lord said, do you want to work for me or do you want to work for man? And I said, Lord, I want to work for you. He said, okay, well then trust me. And I said, okay, Lord, I don't have a lot of money, but I'm going to trust you. And that's when he told me to fast. And once I started fasting and then he gave me that name, things just started rolling and doors started opening and contacts started coming and my needs were being met. And then I made my first hire with my CFO. And I remember we were in a little tiny office. I could barely afford the office. I could barely afford for Google pay clicks, and then little by little it started growing and God started opening doors and then all of a sudden now it's like, we're being approached by private equity firms now. And then it's just amazing to see the hand of God. But you do have to be obedient, and it takes the same amount of faith to doubt God as it does to believe in God.
What? All right, explain that, man.
Think about it. Faith is faith. If you're scared about what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, and you're doubting the hand of God, that's faith. You're believing in something compared to God, I trust you. I believe it. Both of them you can't see. Both of them you can't touch. You have to decide what you're going to believe. Is God true or is he a liar? Both of them require faith.
It's crazy. One of the biggest commandments in the Bible is do not fear, right? I struggle with fear, especially I'm branching into a new industry, right? I'm getting my investment banking license. I'm working with a family office. I'm learning something that is new for me. And I've got a wife and 3 kids. I'm scared, right?
Yes.
I feel like I'm heading in the direction that I'm supposed to go, but I'm scared, right?
Yes.
Now you could take that fear and, like, I love what you just did, is it's still a faith in something. I'm just got to choose where I put my faith, right?
Yes, sir.
Man,
Yes,
that's
sir. That's why the
challenging and
Bible says,
encouraging.
that's why the Bible always says, be encouraged, be encouraged. It takes courage to walk in faith.
Mm.
That's why he says, be encouraged, because it's scary and it's supposed to be scary.
Yeah, it sure is. It sure is. But I'll tell you, like, I can't imagine. Like, I look back in the history and I just saw all the things that it's amazing things that happened to me and my family. Some painful, man. Like, we've gone through really tough seasons, but my wife and I were best buddies. I got kids that know my name and that love me, and we're really close in my community. Like, so, like, I look back and I go, man, I wouldn't change it. Wouldn't want to go through it again, for sure.
Yes. Yes.
Like, it
Me
sucks,
too. Me too.
but I'm thankful. What do you think was what do you think was the hardest thing that you pushed through, that you would look back and you go, wow, that was a miracle?
I could tell you this, and it's the difference between being a spiritual Christian versus a carnal Christian.
Okay.
And most people think that when they see somebody spiritual, that's unordinary. But the reality is that is what it's supposed to be, ordinary. It's unordinary to walk carnal. And why that's so material is because the Bible talks about putting the armor of God on in Ephesians, right? So if we're supposed to put an armor of God on, that means we're in a spiritual battle. We're fighting, right? Well, Satan can go to and fro from heaven, and he can petition, and he can say, hey, you know what? This guy is doing this stuff, so I have the legal right to mess with him. Well, there's a lot of legal stuff that he has the right to if you walk as a carnal Christian. But if you crucify the flesh and you stop walking as a carnal Christian, and Satan goes to petition, God goes, well, wait a minute, I don't see anything wrong with this guy. Get out of my way, be gone, you can't touch him. And that's when God can start trusting you with the keys to the kingdom so that you can be an influence for him. Because a good father is not going to give you the keys to a Ferrari when you're 16 years old. He wants to give you the keys to the Ferrari, but he's not going to trust you to drive that car until you're ready to handle it. And that's our walk in life.
That's our walk in life, for sure. Man, I want to continue this conversation. Edward, you and I might need to do a part 2 follow-up to this at some point. You and I just had such a great conversation, and the time flew, and I'm just looking at it now. Got a deal coming up in 7 minutes. I got to
No worries, brother.
Holy moly. Where could people go to find out more about your business and your podcast show?
Business, www.1031crowd, like a crowd of people, funding.com. And then you can go to the Ed Fernandez Show. And I'm on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, you name it. It's all over the place.
When you interview a guest, this is the last question. When you interview a guest, what's your favorite question to ask them?
That is a tough question, because once you go to the podcast, you're going to find out it's very interesting, but it depends on who I'm interviewing.
Yeah.
So my next show, which is I'm going to shoot next Friday, is with my wife's best friends, and they're all the interceders for her. They call themselves Strike Force. And so the first question I'm going to ask them is, tell me, what's the purpose of Strike Force? So it's an interesting question, hard to answer, but it's all based on who I'm interviewing.
Super cool. Man, I've enjoyed our time together. You and I will continue some chats. Fellow deal makers, as always, reach out to our guests. Their contact information will be in the show notes below. Reach out to them, say thanks for being on the show, for sharing their mission and their purpose and what they're working on. Find a way to connect with them and do a deal. Now, if you have a deal that you'd like to talk about here on the Deal Scout, thedealscout.com, fill out a quick form, maybe get you on the show next. Till then, we'll talk to you all on the next episode. Cheers.